So here I have the water-soluble graphite pencils from Faber Castell, and here you can get 5 pieces in this set from HB, 2B, 4B, 6B and 8B. They come in this metal tin, but you can also buy them separately if you only want to try one piece. They feel a little bit thicker than your normal graphite pencil, and actually they feel really good in the hand. And on the pencil you can see the name, the Faber Castell, this is water soluble, made in Germany, and which grade, so HB is this one. So I decided to do a test on this paint on paper which I bought a couple of days ago, and I will use the blank pad. This paper is 250 GSM, so it should hold up to some water. It is not a watercolor paper, but it is thick enough that I think that it will work well if I do not put too much water on it. And I have been using this paper for normal graphite pencils in the past, and that worked really nice, so I really wanted to see the comparison. So here we have the 5 pencils, and now I'm only trying to dissolve and move the pigment, and I noticed that actually it is not dissolving completely, so you can still see the line where I stopped coloring with the pencil. So I thought maybe this was because of the paper, so I switched and used the watercolor paper from Canson, but actually the same thing happened here. Still maybe I was able to dissolve the pencil a little bit better, but you can still clearly see the transition. So the higher the number of the pencil, the more difficult it is to dissolve it. But I think actually this will not be a big problem because you're actually doing some shading. So maybe I will go from the 8B to 4B and then HB, because as you can see here, the HB does dissolve quite well. So maybe that will work and solve the problem. So then I started sketching an apple. I decided to do a black and white apple, but I remembered that I actually did not try how well these pencils can be erased. So on the side here I tried the HB, and I think I used the 8B or 6B, I'm not sure now, to see how well they can be erased, because I know when I'm doing my graphite drawings that the higher the number, the less you can erase the graphite pencil. And as you can see here, there was actually no difficulties erasing the HB pencil, but when I was using the one with the higher number, I could erase it, but the lines were still visible. And that was actually something that I was expecting, because as I said, when I'm doing my graphite drawings, I know that those pencils erase a little bit more difficult. So for this drawing, I was actually not sure how to approach this, because from one side I was thinking I will do the whole shading and stuff like I usually do in the graphite, but then from the other side I was thinking that's also not the point, because I'm going to use the water, so there's no point of being really neatly and trying to put really nice lines. So I was just putting some shadows here and there, not really paying attention that I'm let's say blending everything together. And I was switching between HB, 4B and I think 8B. I used the 8B for the most darkest parts, and the HB I used on the parts where I wanted sorry, to have brighter spots, but on the places where I really wanted white, I just left white paper. So I then decided to try, maybe I will blend this one side with my finger before I apply water, but later after I applied water I saw that there was no difference. So that was actually an unnecessary step. So it's not necessary to blend it with your fingers before you apply water. And as you can see here, with water the colors do they get much darker than they were when they were in the dry form. And as I was expecting, I actually did not see any lines that remained here after I applied water, but you do have to be careful when you are moving the graphite around with your brush, because you do get those streaks, lines from your brush. Then I left this to dry a little bit and went again with the graphite over the drawing, because I wanted to have some darker parts and wanted to do some shading and to do some blending with the pencils now. So I was just applying some shapes, darker parts, some spots on the apple, and of course, then I remembered I did not try if I can reactivate these graphites. So I went on the side where I used the HB and went with the pen with my brush over it, and it does activate a little bit, but you cannot get rid of that last line that you have when you are apply the water. And also I tried to erase that part, but that also did not work. So I suppose, so if you have just a thin layer of your graphite and you dissolve it with water, it will be difficult to move anything around. But if you have a thicker layer of the graphite on your paper, you will still be able to move it a little bit around. But that one line, it is possible that it will remain there. And then I went again with my brush and made those parts even darker, and that was really nice that I was able to make the shadows even darker than they were, and that I liked it a lot. So the less water you have on your brush, the darker your graphite will be, because immediately if you have more water on your brush, the water just dissolves and moves that graphite around. So the drier the brush, the better if you want to have really dark parts. And I think you can now clearly see in the shadow those lines which I was not able to dissolve. I actually wanted to have a really nice transition, but because I did put one layer and I left it to dry there, that line, that border line formed, and I was not able to dissolve it. And then I decided just to put some background. I used the HB for this because I wanted the lines to dissolve completely. Used big brush with a lot of water, moved pigment around, and that was not the problem at all. And there was one thing that was bothering me actually. The apple was just not big enough as I wanted it to be. So I went again with the graphite over one spot, increased the size of the apple, and that was it. And that worked actually really well. What I also tried was to lift up some color, so I've put down a little bit of water with a pencil, and then I used the tissue just to lift up some graphite. And yes, you can do that to some amount if you have a thicker layer of the graphite on your paper, but you cannot lift it completely so that you get like a white spots. So I had a lot of fun with these water-soluble graphite pencils, and I will be using them in the future. So thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye!